On.
Hey, great. Late night from Willowdale. We haven't done a video in 2 or 3 weeks. So many topics have happened since the last time. So we're going to run through these really quick because I want to keep these videos short. So today let's start with the topic of the day, Iran. Trump says Trump won't certify the Iran agreement today. He's supposed to do it every 90 days. This time said he won't certify it. He's not going to pull out of the deal right away. He's going to leave it up to Congress to deal with it. But again, it's another situation where the facts don't matter. The facts don't matter in this. Everybody has said Iran has complied basically with the deal. Okay, all the European powers, Russia, China, the UN atomic watchdog, Trump's own security agencies, the American security agencies, the CIA or the NSA, all these people. There's no one who's the military, the Pentagon has said that Iran has basically complied with the deal. But this doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. This is a classic example with Trump. The facts don't matter. He's playing to his base, which he does, and I'll say it. These basket of deplorables that supported him, who are not very bright, and he's they for them and for them and many others, there seems to be this sort of this hatred of Iran that is just not rational. It's just crazy. Like nothing Iran can do works. They just have this hatred of this country, and yet Iran is one of the more democratic countries in the region. You know, ironically, you think his basket of deplorables would also dislike Saudi Arabia. But since Trump loves Saudi Arabia, they don't say anything. And Saudi Arabia is clearly the biggest human rights violator, one of the biggest human rights violators on the planet Earth. A really despicable place, and where there are no elections and there's very little freedoms, and women are treated like dirt. It was seen as a big deal that they're allowing women to drive. Most recently, Iran has elections. It's a relatively democratic place. It's not a free place. It's got lots of human rights problems. And it is meddlesome in the region, but so is Saudi Arabia. I mean, Saudi Arabia is meddlesome all over the place. Look what they're doing in Yemen. They're just butchering people with U.S. support. They're meddlesome in Afghanistan. They supported the Taliban for years. Where did most of the hijackers of 9/11 come from? Saudi Arabia. I could go on and on. I'm not. One of the biggest problems in the Middle East and Central Asia is the influence of the Saudis, not the Iranians. The Iranians actually could be quite useful in many ways. It's pretty useful in Afghanistan and working to get a long-term settlement there. But that's another story. This hatred of Iran is not rational. Trump used it in the campaign, and today the facts don't matter. He says that he's not going to certify that Iran is keeping up with the deal because he believes that it's not, and his speech today was rambling and stupid. And even though everybody who knows anything says Iran is complying with the nuclear deal, so another crazy thing. Now let's move on for where the facts don't matter to NAFTA. Yeah, I love this Wall Street Journal yesterday. Nice picture of Trudeau and Trump and Melania and Sophie, and it says, as trade ties phrase, Trump has the neighbors over. And I like that because it says it all, right? Trump is... Trump, I don't see these NAFTA talks going anywhere. Trump is against it. And again, the facts don't matter. NAFTA has been beneficial to the North American economy, to the Canadian economy, to the American economy, to the Mexican economy. Yes, some people haven't benefited, no question. But destroying NAFTA or pulling out of NAFTA will be catastrophic for the North American economy. It will have reverberations around the world. And Trump doesn't, even though the business leaders and everyone has told him NAFTA has been good for the United States, and the North American economy is so integrated, destroying NAFTA will just put a lot of people out of work. Facts don't matter to Trump, The facts just don't matter. So, again, we don't know where NAFTA is going. Canada should be prepared to strike deals with other countries. I'm glad we have the European agreement. We should definitely revive the Trans-Pacific Partnership with Australia, New Zealand, bring in China, and of course Mexico and other countries. We have to start making other deals. It's interesting about the trade. Trump has gone after. He's talked about going after so many countries: China, Japan, South Korea, of course, Mexico, and yet the only countries where tariffs are being imposed is Canada. He's going out, and this has been noticed. The one country he goes after is Canada. So he has this friendly picture with Justin and Sophie in the White House yesterday, and the one country that they're picking on is Canada. The tariffs on Bombardier, the softwood lumber tariffs. Now they're picking on the BC wine industry. It's just crazy. Isn't Canada supposed to be their closest friend and ally? So this is an ongoing story. I don't see I see Canada should be prepared to walk away from these talks too, because I don't see them going anywhere. Once again, he's playing to his base, an irrational hatred of trade agreements and NAFTA. It's not rational, and the facts don't matter in this case. Let's go on to Vegas now. So we're running. Yeah, I want to wrap this up. Okay, so what was the other recent horror story? Another mass gun shooting. Okay, so what happened in Vegas won't stay in Vegas. There'll be other gun shootings. The Americans just don't want gun control, and they just don't want it. If it didn't happen after the massacre of all those kids at Sandy Hook, it's not going to happen after Vegas. There'll be another mass shooting in the matter of days or weeks. You know that. It's just going to, and there have been so many. The New York Times had an amazing chart of the amount of mass shootings since the Orlando shootings last year. I think 400. I can't even. I don't want to. I should have looked it up, but it was an astronomical amount. I think. Anyways, I'm not going to cite the stat of how many people died because I don't want to get it wrong. But the 30,000 gun deaths in the U.S. every year. They don't want it. Do you know that only 3% of Americans actually own a good chunk of the guns? It's an amazing statistic. It's a lunatic fringe. They don't want sensible gun control. They don't want to change the Second Amendment, which was goes back a couple of hundred years ago, and they were just getting their independence from Britain. It's not rational now. They don't need militias now. They don't want to change their constitution. With the Americans, it's like they just don't like change. And they should be calling the NRA. They should be calling the NRA, the National Rifle Association, a terrorist organization, no different than Al Qaeda and ISIS, because the NRA promotes this violence. And I could go on and on about gun control, but the United States doesn't want it, and it's the normal. Americans are willing to live with this violence. And I'm tired of all the hand-wringing and talk about unity and prayers and all that after every mass shooting and how Americans all come together. People just roll their eyes. Bring in sensible gun control. Of course, that's not going to happen. And what happened in Vegas won't stay in Vegas. It's going to happen again. And then let me move to another topic quickly here. I'll segue in. The NDP has a new leader. It was a bold and dramatic step to put Jagmeet Singh in the leadership of the NDP. I think in this era, in this time where there's so much racial tension and intolerance in the world, I thought it was a great move by the federal NDP to put Jagmeet Singh in the leadership. It's a symbolic move, but I don't think it's going to help the NDP. This is a party that's very divided. It doesn't know where it's at. It always calls itself the party of the working class, but it's not really. The party of the working class is the Conservatives. The NDP is the part of the upper middle class. It has no serious economic policies. It seems to be anti-everything, anti-pipeline, anti-trade. And, of course, its foreign policy is basically anti-Trump. I mean, it's nowhere. The NDP, unfortunately, despite the leadership and despite the momentum of the leadership, is not on the road to any sort of relevance. It's a very divided party. And it seems lost, as I say, lost in space, and I don't see any changes coming. And one of their positions of the NDP is they're pretty much anti-pipeline. Now we have this thing with the Energy East. This would have been a great pipeline to get Alberta oil to New Brunswick, to Tidewater. It would have benefited a lot of Canadians. And because of all sanctimonious environment movement, a spineless prime minister, a lot of opposition in Quebec, it didn't go through. The TransCanada canceled it. To me, this is a failure of Canada. This is an embarrassment for Canada. What kind of a country is this that we pit one region against the other? Alberta oil oil sands development benefits all Canadians. And the hypocrisy of Denis Coderre, the mayor of Montreal, just blows my mind. You know, he was so happy, he was gloating when the project was canceled. This is a guy who has dumped raw sewage into the St. Lawrence. His city gets power from the James Bay hydroelectric project in central Quebec. When they built the James Bay project, they basically destroyed a good chunk of the James Bay lowlands. It was an ecological disaster. So they can't complain about Energy East being environmentally unfriendly when they're basically getting their power from a horrible source. Hydroelectricity isn't clean, especially when you destroy a good chunk of the ecosystem. And I'll end this back on Trump. You know, Trump's outbursts on so many, whether it's Bob Cork or whether it's Sessions or anyone he hates, or the NFL players or Kim Jong-un, his outbursts are just that, they're outbursts. And I think the media pays way too much attention to them and to his tweets. He just loves to do it. Apparently Trump loves to go home to the White House at night and watch the news and watch how his outbursts are portrayed. And he loves it. He apparently goes back to the White House at night and he watches TV and he loves to see how the media covers his outbursts. And I really think the media, unless he says something that's really serious or dangerous and not just another we're going to blow up North Korea or Kim Jong-un is Rocket Man sort of thing, I think the media really should, CNN, all these things should not be paying as much attention to his crazy outbursts, because he loves to taunt people, and he's not worthy of any coverage on this. And yes, there's some serious things here. What he's doing today on Iran is absolutely stupid and dangerous. Because let's face it, it has implications. You know, if we want to get a nuclear deal with North Korea, they see what Trump is doing on Iran, they'll say, why should we? Look, he won't live up to the agreement. So some things he says are important and they have effects, whether it's NAFTA or Iran. But some of the stuff, and I don't think we're in a serious military situation here with North Korea. I think that's been overhyped. But okay, I got to end it there. So much to talk about. Well, we'll do another video at some point.